Well, at ease, paratroopers, and welcome back to the Enduring Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, retired Army Staff Sergeant Kevin Kidder. Today is going to be a solo episode. I've had an absolute blast sitting down with so many incredible guests, hearing their stories, sharing their lessons, and the perspectives they bring. But along the way, I've also had people tell me something pretty directly. We enjoyed the guests, but we want to hear from you too, not just the interviews, not just the questions, your thoughts, your perspective. What are you learning? What are you wrestling with? And what do you believe matters? So, today, that's exactly what this is. Let's get to it. There are seasons in life where you look around and realize the identity that carried you for so many years no longer defines your day to day life, but the next version of you is not fully built yet. That space can be uncomfortable, especially for people who are used to structure, responsibility, and measurable progress. I know veterans feel that. Athletes feel it, leaders feel it, lots of high performers feel it because when you've spent years in environments where your role is clear, your mission is clear, and your contribution is obvious, stepping into a season where things feel slower or less defined can mess with your head if you're not careful. You can know you still have something to offer and still wrestle with the reality that life does not always move at the pace you expected. And if you're not careful, you start telling yourself things like, I should be further along by now. I should have more momentum by now. I should already be where I pictured myself being. As a reader, an author, and during my short lived but much loved time as an English teacher, I've always appreciated the semicolon. A semicolon means the sentence could have ended, but it did not. In veteran spaces, that symbol has taken on an even deeper meaning. It represents hope, resilience, and the conscious decision to keep going, especially for those who have battled PTSD, depression, or seasons where continuing to put one foot in front of the other took real strength. The sentence did not end. And in the English language, I think there's a word that carries that same kind of power yet. Not there yet. Not finished yet. Not fully built yet. Not seeing the results yet. That word matters because it reminds you the story is still moving. At the same time, I also think there's real value in staying dangerous in a good way. Not dangerous in a reckless sense, but disciplined, capable, mentally sharp, physically prepared, morally grounded, and an unwillingness to drift into passivity just because life got quieter. Because sometimes while your external identity is changing, your internal standards still need to stay intact. And that's what I want to talk about today: identity, edge, patience, and why the power of yet matters more than people realize. For many veterans, retirement or transition is often described like leaving a profession, but I don't think that fully captures what it is. You're not just leaving a job, you're leaving an entire ecosystem. You're leaving language that made immediate sense to the people around you. You're leaving a tribe that understood dark humor, urgency, responsibility, and shared hardship without needing explanation. You're leaving a rhythm where your days often had structure built into them before your feet even hit the floor. There's something powerful about waking up inside a system where your role matters, people count on you, and effort often has immediate meaning. You solve a problem, it matters right now. You lead people, it matters right now. You make a decision under pressure, it matters right now. You show up prepared, somebody feels it right now. Even on the hard days, there's clarity. There's a mission, there's movement, and there's usually a visible, tangible reason for what you're doing. Then one day that environment changes. And for many of us, the hardest part is not losing work, it's losing that immediate relevance. That can be extremely difficult to admit because most people leaving highly structured environments are not losing capability. Your discipline did not disappear. Your instincts did not disappear. Your ability to lead, solve problems, endure hard things, and stay steady under pressure did not disappear. But the environment changed, and with it, the feedback changed. Outside of those systems, meaningful progress often takes longer to see. You can spend weeks building relationships before trust forms. You can spend months building a new professional direction before momentum shows up. You can spend years planting seeds that nobody else sees yet. And if you're not careful, you start interpreting delayed feedback as diminished value. And at least in my experience, that's where discouragement creeps in because people are used to operating at a high level do not struggle with effort. They struggle when effort no longer produces immediate confirmation. That's why some very capable people quietly wrestle after transition, not because they became weaker, but because the scoreboard changed. When the scoreboard changes, you have to be mature enough not to panic just because the results are arriving differently. The truth is, you still have value. You just have to learn how to apply it differently. Now, like I said, it absolutely applies to veterans, but if we're being honest, it applies far beyond veterans as well. Athletes feel it when the sport that shaped their daily identity ends. Executives feel it when the title changes and they no longer walk into rooms carrying the same authority they once had. Parents feel it when children grow up and the house gets quiet in the ways they were not prepared for. Even teachers, coaches, first responders, pastors, and entrepreneurs can feel it when a season changes and the thing that once gave daily meaning suddenly looks different. The challenge in every case is learning how to carry forward who you are without becoming trapped by who you were. If all your meaning was attached to one role, one title, one uniform, one season, then transition is always going to feel like a loss. But if your deeper identity was built on character, conviction, discipline, faith, or purpose, then transition becomes less about losing yourself and more about learning how to express yourself differently in a new season. One of the mistakes people make in that season is they slowly start lowering standards they once fought hard to build. Not all at once, it's usually gradual. I know the danger in that because this has happened to me at different points. It's not in some crazy dramatic way, but in quiet ways that are easy to justify. A little less physical effort, a little less attention to what sharpens the mind, strengthens the body, or keeps the spirit grounded. And because life may no longer demand the same level of readiness it once did, it becomes very easy to convince yourself that maybe those things are no longer necessary. And that's where the drift begins. You stop sharpening things that once mattered deeply to you, not because you made some major decision to let go of them, but because life got quieter and comfort became easier to justify. The challenge is that over time, if you're not careful, the edge you once worked so hard to build starts to dull. Again, it's not overnight, it's gradual. Sometimes you don't even realize it until life asks something difficult of you again and you realize you are not quite as ready as you thought you were. That's why I believe there's real value in staying capable, even when life is not forcing capability out of you every day. Because strength, discipline, readiness, and steadiness are not qualities that should only exist when circumstances demand them. They should remain a part of who you are. And that is where I think the idea of staying dangerous in a good way becomes extremely valuable. Again, I'm not talking dangerous in a reckless sense, not being aggressive for the sake of aggression, not walking around trying to prove something. I mean, disciplined enough that you can still do hard things when hard things are required. Being physically capable enough that your body still supports the kind of life you want to live. Being mentally sharp enough that you're not easily rattled, manipulated, or discouraged. Being morally grounded enough that your strength stays under control and pointed in the right direction. Because real strength is not loud, it is usually very calm. The strongest people I have known were rarely the most dramatic people in the room. They were steady, they were prepared, they did not need attention to know who they were. For me, staying dangerous in a good way means continuing to build qualities that matter even when nobody is assigning them to you. It means training when nobody's watching, reading when nobody's grading you, praying when nobody is asking if you did, and keeping promises you made to yourself even when there's no applause attached to it. Comfort has a way of quietly removing qualities you once fought hard to build. And comfort is deceptive because it rarely announces itself as weakness. It usually shows up looking like convenience. You skip one hard thing because you're tired, and then another because you're busy, and then another because life feels full enough already. Does not mean you have to live in constant intensity. It does mean you should remain capable. You should be hard to discourage, hard to intimidate, hard to break, hard to pull away from who and what matters most. The world does not need more reckless people. It needs more capable people who know how to stay calm. Sometimes, while your external identity is changing, your internal standards need to become even more intentional. Because if you do not choose your standards, comfort is going to choose them for you. Even when you're doing many of the right things, there are still seasons where progress feels slower than you expected. If you're not careful, that's when another lie starts creeping in. I should be further along by now. I think a lot of people carry that thought more than they care to admit. I should have more momentum by now. I should have clear results by now. I should already be where I pictured myself being. And the problem with that mindset is not that the ambition is wrong. Ambition can be healthy. The problem is that sometimes we create timelines in our own minds that life never agreed to. I can say that because I'm living some of that in real time right now. There are things in my own life right now that I can see clearly in my mind, but I cannot force them to arrive faster. A book coming out that has taken months to write and shape, knowing release day is coming, but not yet knowing how readers will fully respond. A business where the vision feels so real, but the final shape is still developing. A nonprofit that I believe deeply in while also knowing that belief and mission still have to meet execution, structure, and support. A major move back to Michigan where I know part of the next chapter will become clear, but not every piece is visible yet. And like a lot of people carrying responsibility, there's also the practical side of it. How do you provide well, build wisely, and trust the work when there's no guarantee that every effort immediately turns into revenue or certainty? That's real life for a lot of people. You can be moving forward and still not have every answer. But a lot of meaningful things do not work on immediate timelines. Sometimes growth is happening before it's obvious. Sometimes foundations are being built before anything visible rises above the surface. Sometimes discipline is doing important work long before the results show up in ways other people can see. And that's why one word has become very important to me: yet. I'm not there yet. I'm not finished yet. I'm not seeing the results yet. That word matters because it keeps disappointment at bay, keeps it from becoming final. Yet reminds you that unfinished does not mean failed. It reminds you that delayed does not mean denied. It reminds you that the story is still moving, still evolving, even when the chapter feels slower than you hoped. And honestly, many meaningful things in life have a second climb. The first climb often happens when youth, structure, urgency, and outside expectations are pushing you forward. That second climb, it looks different. It often requires more patience, more self direction, more humility, and more faith when external proof is limited. Sometimes that second climb feels harder because fewer people see it happening. And in a lot of cases, the second climb is where deeper things are built: more perspective, more clarity, more purpose, more alignment between who you are and how you live. So when that intrusive thought shows up, I should be further along by now, I think it helps to challenge it. Maybe you're not behind. Maybe you are building something that simply takes longer. Maybe this season is not proof that nothing is happening. Maybe it's proof that some things worth building do not move at the speed of insecurity. There's a verse in Galatians that speaks directly to seasons like this. In chapter 6, verse 9, the Apostle Paul writes, "Let us not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." A lot of people want proof before they stay faithful to the work. Oftentimes, the deeper challenge is continuing before the proof arrives. And maybe the better sentence is simply this: I'm not there yet, but I'm still moving. If I could leave you with one thought, it would be this: just because a season feels slower does not mean it is empty. Some seasons are loud and obvious. You can measure them easily. You can point to the progress, the wins, the momentum, the external confirmation. Other seasons, they're quieter, but quiet does not equal unproductive. Sometimes quiet seasons are where identity gets clarified, where standards get tested, patience gets built, and deeper roots begin forming before anything visible changes above the surface. If your old identity no longer defines your daily life, that doesn't mean your value disappeared. If progress feels slower than expected, it doesn't mean the story is over. And if the future is not fully clear yet, it doesn't mean you're standing still. Stay capable, stay grounded, stay faithful to the work in front of you. And when that voice shows up saying you should already be somewhere else by now, maybe answer it with one simple word: yet. Not there yet, not finished yet, but I'm still moving. If something in this episode resonated with you, you're not alone. Transition is hard, identity shifts are hard, healing is hard, but none of that has to be done in isolation. Reach out, make sure they are a fountain, someone that pours into you, not a drain. Initiate or have that tough conversation. Take the first step, be the leader in your own life. If you found value in today's episode, please consider sharing it with a friend, leaving a review, or sending it to another veteran or leader who might need to hear this message. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, X, YouTube, and Amazon Music at enduring underscore mindset underscore enterprise, or check us out at www.enduringmindsetenterprise.com. You can find out more about the business, the book, and our new nonprofit arm, the Enduring Mindset Foundation. This has been the Enduring Mindset Podcast, reminding you that your past may shape you, but it does not have to define you. Until next time, onward, forward, fall out.